Hey, what's up, guys? I'm going to start a new series. It's going to be a quick recap of all the seasons of Game of Thrones, kind of to get caught up for the new season coming out all the way up until season 7. But I'm actually not going to start with season 1. This episode, I'm going to start with what comes before Game of Thrones. That's going to be Robert's Rebellion. Now, how everything starts at this point in time. King Aerys Targaryen is ruler of Westeros. He's what everyone calls the Mad King. Now, at this point, Robert Baratheon and Ned Stark, they're training with a guy named Jon Arryn. It's very much kind of like a summer camp kind of deal. They learn how to sword fight. This is where Robert and Ned really became friends. Think of it as like a Ryu Ken training under Goken-esque kind of situation going on. At this point, Robert is betrothed to marry Lyanna Stark, which is Ned's sister. This is an arranged marriage. It's not like they necessarily love each other. We're going to see a lot of that in the series. And Catelyn Tully is actually betrothed to Brandon Stark. Brandon is Eddard's older brother. So keep that in mind. Catelyn was not originally meant to marry Ned. Anyway, there's a big tournament at Harrenhal. At this point, it's a huge deal. A lot of people enter. But when it comes down to it, 2 people in the finals are Sir Barristan Selmy and Prince Rhaegar. Now, Prince Rhaegar, he's the son of Aerys Targaryen. And he was actually, some people thought that he was actually Azor Ahai, the person who was supposed to, the prince who was promised, basically. And because of that, his whole life was dedicated to studying to become a smarter, more intelligent person, as well as being an absolute beast in a fight. So it's just studying, combat training, and singing when he got a chance, because he really liked singing. Anyway, so at this tournament, it's Sir Barristan Selmy and Prince Rhaegar. At the final joust, Rhaegar wins and beats Selmy. And actually, at this point, Selmy believes that had he have won this tournament, a lot of the things in Game of Thrones wouldn't have happened. And he kind of blames himself. The reason being is because whoever wins a tournament is able to name somebody the Queen of Love and Beauty. Basically, it's like saying, you're the most beautiful person I know. I love you. So Rhaegar wins, and he gets a chance to name someone to crown them Queen of Love and Beauty, instead of naming his wife that, which at this point he's married to Ilya Martell from Dorne. Instead of naming Ilya Martell, he crowns Lyanna Stark as the Queen of Love and Beauty. So just to kind of put this into perspective, this is like if you could give anyone an award for being the most beautiful woman you know, and instead of giving it to your wife, you give it to another man's fiance. That's kind of what's going on right here. So everybody in the tournament is shocked. Some time goes by. Lyanna Stark at some point is quote unquote kidnapped by Prince Rhaegar. So they're whisked away. Nobody knows where they are. At this point, Rickard Stark, which is Eddard's father, Eddard and Brandon's father, Rickard, he and Brandon Stark go to King's Landing because they're not really the most diplomatic type of people. So they go straight to King's Landing. They're like, hey, what's going on? Your son kidnapped my daughter. We want her back. The Mad King says, no, you're not going to have her back. So Rickard asks for a trial by combat. The Mad King obliges. Rickard names himself his champion, which means he's fighting on his own behalf. But the Mad King, he names Fire as his champion, at which point he literally burns Rickard Stark to death. And the way that they have Brandon, Ned's brother, kind of tied down, the more he reaches for his sword that's a little bit out of reach, the more this contraption strangles him, and he ends up strangling himself to death. So both of them are dead. At this point, word gets back to Winterfell. Ned and Robert, they're like, this is on, like Donkey Kong, because there's no way they're just going to let this slide. So at this point, Eddard actually marries Catelyn Tully. The reason why they married wasn't because they were really in love or anything like that, but Ned basically needed the Tully army. And this was a way of kind of making a bond to be able to get that army. So Ned marries Catelyn. Jon Arryn, the guy who trained and kind of, helped out Robert and Eddard, he marries Lysa Tully. Lysa is Catelyn's sister, who we meet Lysa actually later on in the Vale. So they get married, all of them get married so that they can get the Tully army. So now it's Winterfell, the Tullys, the Vale, and the Baratheons are all in open rebellion against the crown. Like, they're all coming for King Aerys. At some point, Robert Baratheon meets Prince Rhaegar in open combat. They meet at a place called the Trident. It's like a river, and Rhaegar steps in. He has like this fancy armor with the rubies in it, and Robert ends up winning. He actually buries his warhammer into his chest.
I knocked him down with the hammer. God, I was strong then.
At this point, the rubies just fly everywhere, fall into the Trident. People go diving for them, and eventually it gets renamed the Ruby Ford because of all these precious rubies from his armor being shattered and thrown into the river. Anyway, at this point, Tywin Lannister, because the Lannisters weren't a part of the war one way or another. They didn't choose a side. But now with Rhaegar dead, Tywin sees, or I guess in his own mind, he feels that the rebellion might actually win at this point. So Tywin, being the last hand of the king, he goes to King's Landing. He tricks Aerys Targaryen into opening the gates to him. He opens the gates, and then Tywin goes in and sacks the city. He just wrecks shop, rips through their army. This is actually also the point where Gregor Clegane, the Mountain, he finds Ilya Martell. Remember, Ilya Martell is Rhaegar's bride. And he rapes her and he kills her.
You raped her! You murdered her! You killed her children!
I just said that. But this is the point where he rapes and kills Ilya Martell, as well as killing her children. This is also a reason why Joffrey kind of disses Tywin in that one scene at the small council meeting.
My father won the real war. He killed Prince Rhaegar. He took the crown while you hid under Castle Rock.
Okay, so at this point, the Mad King, he sees that things are looking bad. Like, he's about to lose. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to die, but I'm not dying alone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kill everybody. He has these pits of wildfire set all around King's Landing, under the city. And he orders for them to all kind of explode and kill everybody. And at this point, he's kind of crazy. I think he thinks that if he really can't be burned by wildfire or anything like that because he is a Targaryen. That's what he believes. Anyway, so before the order is actually made, though, Jaime shows up and literally stabs him in the back, killing the Mad King. So Jaime heard about this plan to kill everyone. He's like, no, that's not happening, and kills him. And this is another reason why Ned doesn't really like Jaime, because Ned walks into the city, finds that the city is sacked. There is no battle here. He just kind of walks in. Then he sees Jaime over, Aerys' dead body, and Ned, he's a really, he's an honor-bound guy. So when he sees that this person, who is the head of the Kingsguard, he's sworn to protect the king no matter what, actually turned on the king and betrayed him, that's breaking a vow, and Ned doesn't really, that he's not part of that life. He's not about that life, basically. Not about that life. So in Eddard's own mind, he would have actually respected Jaime more had he have fought against Ned. Oh, I can't even say this guy's name. And he would have respected him more had he had kept his vow and fought against Ned instead of breaking his vow and attacking King Aerys. So anyway, Aerys is dead at this point. Robert shows up, he becomes king, and then he names Jon Arryn as the hand of the king. And this basically leads into the events of the first episode of Game of Thrones, when we find out that somehow Jon Arryn is mysteriously killed, and Robert needs to name somebody the new hand of the king, and he chooses his homie, Eddard Stark. Anyway, I hope that this kind of helps as a jumping off point, or maybe a refresher, or maybe this made some things in the series make a little bit more sense. Like I said, I'm going to be doing these for every season leading up to season 7. And I hope you guys will join me while I do that. Anyway, you guys, don't get beat up out there. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you guys later.
Peace.